Greetings, Home Group Shepherds. First of all, I want to thank you for your commitment towards God's flock, of taking care of and shepherding God's flock and taking on the responsibility of making sure that the sheep of God is nurtured. Today, I want to talk about a few things. Today, I want to talk about the vision of CDC when it comes to the entire church, the local church of God that exists here. And the second video, I want to talk about the expectations as a pastoral team we have from our shepherds. So our first point of conversation will be about the vision of CDC, whether it comes to the services and the home groups. And the second part will be the expectations that we have from you, that is the home group shepherds, and that you can have of us, that is the leadership team of CDC. So vision, first of all, let's talk about the vision of CDC. Now, the vision, the life vision of CDC is to win 1% of Delhi for Christ. The vision, the life vision of CDC is to win 1% of Delhi for Christ and to equip 99 other churches to do the same. That's our life vision. In our lifetime, we want to see 1% of Delhi won by CDC and 99 other churches doing the same. Now, the important thing is a strategy to achieve this vision. So we have a two-pronged strategy to achieve this vision. The first step, the first strategy we have is large services, that is our weekend services. And the second point or the second step of this strategy is a small group gathering. In CDC, we do not have very many events, but we have only two events that we focus on. One is a large group gathering, which is your weekend services, Saturday and Sunday. And second is your midweek small group gathering, which is your home group. And if you see the CDC funnel, you have the notes in front of you. And if you look at the CDC growth funnel, you see everything in CDC happens around these two gatherings. So you have services where people come to services, and from services, which is your large group gathering, so you draw people into services, you do evangelistic outreach services where you draw people in, and then they funnel into home group where the community happens. So you have heard many times about membership, maturity, ministry. All these three aspects of CDC, they happen in the context of a home group. When a person signs a membership covenant, that membership is not towards the entire church, that membership is towards a home group. Maturity happens within the context of home group. And ministry again happens in the context of home group, but towards the larger church as well. And as a result of this funnel, you have mature and connected disciples ready and equipped to go out on the mission in the marketplace. So that's the strategy that CDC has to achieve the vision of 1% of Delhi. Now, looking at these strategies a bit more in depth, so you have large group gatherings. The vision that we have for large group gatherings is to see, or we envision, multiple venues in the city to cater to 1% of Delhi. So we envision multiple venues. Venue CDC, this is 22 Bhai Singh Marg, is one other venue. Tomorrow we want to have a venue in Vasant Kunj, in East Delhi, in North Delhi, in South Delhi, in Gurgaon, Faridabad, Ghaziabad. And we want to have multiple venues throughout the city to cater for 1% of Delhi. And let's just quickly look at the features or the characteristics of this venue. These venues will have the same DNA as CDC. Same vision, same mission, and same strategy. Same DNA as CDC. You'll have a venue leader or a venue pastor who will lead the venue, who will do all the pastoral activities required, whether it is shepherding or whether it is home groups. So you'll have one pastoral or leader leading that venue. You'll have live streaming of the message. Since it's not a church plant, it is a venue. So as Pastor Jeremy or as other pastors teach from this pulpit here at 22 Bhai Singh Marg, it will be all streamed to different venues so that we are all benefiting from one central teaching, strong theological teaching that is aired in different locations. Other characteristic of this venue is live worship. Now, some of you have seen that we have just started a venue at 21 Bhai Singh Marg, just next to 22 Bhai Singh Marg at the Natya Ballet Center. You have live worship team, people worshiping live or leading you into a time of worshiping. people present, and then you have a streamed message. It will be similar with any other venue. But the only different thing would be this venue, or these venues will be built up of home groups. So hypothetically, we have 30 home groups in CDC today. Let's say we opened a venue in Safdarjung, Archipelago, a south central sort of a suburb. And we have 4 home groups that meet around that area. So tomorrow we would request the 4 home groups to, instead of meeting at 22 Highways Mark, go and meet at Safdarjung. So these venues are built up of home groups, and from there we'll expand. So that's our large group gathering in a nutshell. Our second step is small group gathering, which are primarily home groups. And in home groups, we envision 10,000 home groups across the length and breadth of the city to cater to 1% of Delhi. So 1% of Delhi right now is about 200,000 people. And if you do the math, 20 people in one home group divided by 200,000, that's about 10,000 home groups. So our vision is to see 10,000 homes across this city. Now you need to understand this strategy carefully. So we right now have 2 entry points in CDC. One is service, that is your weekend services, and one home group. Strategy is this, that when people come to services, they are either believers or they are unbelievers. If they are believers, they go directly into home group. But if they're unbelievers, we have something called starting points, which is a 10-week study on Christian faith, where unbelievers, seekers, or even new Christians can go and learn more about God, Jesus, Bible, etc. So when unbelievers come to our service, they can go to starting point, and once they make a commitment at the end of starting point, which is at the end of 10 weeks, they move into home groups. And similar is the process when people come into home groups. They come into home groups if they're unbelievers, since we are doing in-depth study of the word in home groups, which is not conducive for an unbeliever. What they do is they come to home group and we move them to starting points. They make a commitment at starting points, they come to Sunday services and become a part of home group. So this is basically our growth strategy. This is how we want to move people from the moment they walk into the service, that is Sunday service, or they move into home groups. That's how we want to grow people. And then there are many other options, courses that we'll run to grow people, etc., etc. So basically, this is how we want to grow our services. This is how we want to grow our home groups. People come into service or a venue, they're unbelievers, we put them into starting points to home group. So home group is growing this way. And on the other hand, people come into home group, we move them, if they're not believers, we move them into starting points, they go to service, the service is also growing. So we have 2 entry points for both services and home groups. Now, since we're talking about home groups, what are the characteristics, like we talked about the characteristics of a large group gathering, which is service. Let's just briefly talk about the characteristic of a home group. First, home group comprises of up to 20 believers. Second, it is gospel-oriented with a focus on discipleship. If you see all our studies, the midweek studies that we do, all the videos that you're getting, the material that you're getting, is all in-depth exegetical Bible study. That's what we want to do, because our focus is maturity, our focus is growth within home groups, but with a gospel focus. We want to foster a culture of trust and vulnerability within home groups. Trust, it takes time to build trust. Only once you build trust, you see people really. You see people, when they have built trust with you, they become, after building trust with you, they become vulnerable, and then you see their real self. When people first walk into your home groups, people talk to you and share the surface level information. But what we want to foster in our home groups is trust and vulnerability. Vulnerability comes with trust. So our home groups are a place where people can be real. They can trust people, and therefore they can be vulnerable, and therefore they can grow. And finally, our home groups should meet all the requirements of the Great Commandment and the Great Commission. Great Commandment, Matthew 22:36-40. Love the Lord your God. That's worship. Love your neighbor, which is ministry. And then we move on to Great Commission, Matthew 28:19-20. Go and make disciples, which is evangelism, baptizing them, bringing them into fellowship, and teaching them discipleship. So we want our home groups to cover all these aspects of maturity, of Christian life: worship, ministry, evangelism, fellowship, and discipleship. So this is, in a nutshell, the vision and the strategy that we have to achieve our vision. Why I'm telling you all this is because, being home group shepherds, you need to understand you play a critical role. You play a critical role. If you are a home group shepherd, that means you have arrived. We have given you the most important responsibility in the whole of CDC, and that is to shepherd people, to nurture people. So all this just to tell you how important you are for us.